Hello everyone, my name is Rattle and welcome to another podcast here on my channel. Today I'm going to be interviewing the very awesome CEO from Rival Stars. The game, for those who might not know, is a horse racing game with cross-country and breeding elements you can play on either mobile or PC. But I'll let our guest introduce himself and then we can dive right into the interview.
So, my name is Mario Wijnands. I'm the CEO and a co-founder of Pigpock, the developer and publisher of Rival Stars Horse Racing. Very happy to be able to talk today about development, about horse games, and of course about Rival Stars. I've always been very interested in your content. I think
thank you.
As far as influencers go, I think what helps you stand out is you're not afraid to challenge the business model, not afraid to challenge the big companies. So I thought you'd be a really interesting person to talk to. And I guess on the flip side, I'm prepared for any difficult questions that you may want to bring to the table. So,
oh dear. I'm sorry. I'm very happy to hear that you're. It's nice to hear that I get a lot of heat from horse gaming developers and stuff. So it's very nice to hear someone making horse games and they're like, "We like the content." I'm like, "Oh, thank you. That's amazing." But also, I just wanted to say thank you for having this interview with me. I'm really excited for it. I'm quite interested to hear what you guys. I did keep the questions. Hopefully as nice as possible, but I do have some interesting ones. Okay, I actually do have a question about like the inspiration for the game. This is an odd one, but bear with me for a second because this is something I'm quite curious about. I've seen that you guys use Farlap. This is just something I really want to know. You guys used Farlap in the creation for the game, and I just kind of want to know where that inspiration kind of come from, and we're going to get into the other stuff now, but that's just something I really wanted to know because I know the story of Farlap. I actually love horse racing, just for interest's sake. I read up a lot about horse racing, so I know the story of Farlap, but the Farlap is strangely missing from the game. So kind of where did the marketing start with that? What's the story behind that, the Farlap story?
So I guess, you know, the story of where did the game come from and where does Farlap fit into the picture. You know, we're a company that has been around for a couple of decades. You know, a lot of our early life as a company was doing console work for hire development. And so we made a number of games over the years, mostly in kind of sports and racing. And one of the games that we made back in the day was a game called Melbourne Cup Challenge, which was, as you might expect, a game that included licenses like the Melbourne Cup. In the UK, you know, the publisher managed to get an additional license with Frankie Dettori, and there it was known as Frankie Dettori Racing. And, you know, that wasn't super successful, but it was successful enough that ourselves and the publisher, True Blue, based out of Sydney in Australia, you know, we're happy with where we ended up and the result. We had done, you know, a number of games with them. We made rugby games, rugby league games. But when we started sort of moving into self-publishing, self-development, self-funding, we sort of grew apart from that relationship, given we didn't do work for hire anymore. But we always were quite interested in horse racing as a game, and we felt that there were real opportunities to do something better with horses and horse racing than had been seen in the mobile phone space, which is where we've spent most of our focus over the last 15 years or so. And after picking around the idea of trying to leverage what we did with Melbourne Cup Challenge, we approached our original publisher, True Blue, in Australia and said, hey, are you interested in kind of revisiting this concept, doing a modern version of that game? there's an opportunity for us to pool our resources in terms of financing and our development capability and your publishing capability, and let's do a game, and they would keep the console publishing rights, and we would keep ultimately the mobile and PC Mac rights for the game. So when it came, down to developing the details and working out what licenses are included, that particular publisher wanted to pursue branding around Farlap and using that in the local market here in Australasia, where they would be doing most of their distribution. Ultimately, we went in a different direction and branded the game with our general Rival Stars sports brand, as we have other sports games using that brand. And we kind of, split the game at that point where, they went on a path where they chose whether or not to update, what they were going to do from there, used another developer to provide those updates, and we kind of went on our own path with with Rival Stars Horse Racing. Still have a great relationship with that publisher. There was no bad blood there. In fact, we're talking about another collaboration at the moment. But yeah, Farlap was something that the CEO of that publisher, really wanted to include, but Farlap as a horse never really made it into the game.
No.
I think the horse on the cover of the game, I guess, is maybe supposed to be Farlap, but it is also not Farlap. So it is very much a very surface level branding for the console version of where this particular game started.
Yes, yeah, because that really confused me for a while, because I would find the Farlap game and then I would find the Rival Stars game, and that confused a lot of people because they were like, okay, so these are two separate games, and then they would get both and like, oh, no, these are exactly the same games. So that was interesting. It got my attention, so I guess the marketing kind of worked in some regards, but definitely. Okay, so the next question I kind of has is about mobile. I always find it interesting that games, like Equestrian, the game Wild Shade, Rival Stars in this case, they deliberately make the decision. Okay, in your case, you do have like the split. You have the mobile and then you have the desktop, which is always very far behind. I'm glad to hear you gave the poor basement guy a keyboard. We're very happy to hear that.
We can talk about why that is, but
wonderful. Yeah. But so I'm actually curious to know what makes a company deliberately decide to go for mobile, not PC, and kind of why do they decide to go with okay, I'm going to call this paywalls, but you understand what I'm saying. You have to kind of pay to move forward with the game, and why is one-off payments for PC? I feel it's kind of, in some regards, people prefer I'm guessing I'm going to hear what you're going to say here, but the consistent payments with paywalls instead of the one-off payment you buy for a product on PC, for example. So kind of why did you make the decision to go for mobile instead of PC? There we go. Well,
Sure. I mean, there's actually a lot of questions in there.
I'm sorry, yeah.
But no, I mean, those are great questions, and I guess that there are different layers to that in terms of for any studio, should you be pursuing a particular type of game, a particular set of platforms. And then the question is, what business model do you lay over the top of that? Certainly at this point in time, for games that are generally in the mobile space, free to play, which, as you suggested, generally means that you can download games for free, but then have purchases or ad-based monetization.
Yes.
That's generally what is the most sustainable sort of model in the mobile space. You need games to be free because you need games to sort of catch in a viral word of mouth type way. You can't you can't really afford the friction of having someone pay even $1, up front, is a huge barrier to getting someone to try out your game.
Yeah, that's true.
The flip side of that, though, is if you've enticed someone to play for free and you're offering a lot of that game for free, there are, of course, many users who will never make a purchase. And for mobile free-to-play games, usually the people who will play for free and never make a purchase will represent somewhere between 95 and 99% of all players. So it really actually comes down to sort of the 1 to 5% who are making purchases, plus those people who might be engaging with the advertising-based monetization. They're really propping up the game for everybody else in terms of making a game sustainable and then making a game profitable. So that's kind of the core model there in mobile.
Yeah.
And really, it's about building that big audience, getting that word of mouth, having a lot of players playing for free, and then finding those opportunities to have people spend money in the game. On the console and PC side, it is changing, and I think over time, we will see more free-to-play, subscription-based monetization coming into that space, but it's still fairly dominant that we have a premium model there where people pay upfront. Sometimes you may pay for additional purchases or downloadable content, but for the most part, you get your game by buying your game and paying that one-off fee. So when it comes to Rival Stars, then I guess we're choosing the monetization that makes sense for the platform, and that's why on mobile we are free to play with in-app purchases and ad monetization, and on PC we are just that single one-off purchase. And we do recognize, actually, and we see, it's interesting to see the feedback from players, because there are certainly a lot of players who get the Steam version and will say, it's great, I just have to pay once, I don't have to mess around with gold packs and purchases and all of that stuff. But on the other hand, there's obviously a lot of people that play the game without ever spending any money at all. They love the free version. So yeah, it really depends on the particular consumer, and I guess what we hope that we're doing is actually offering a quality experience on both platforms, and people have that opportunity to choose what they're prepared to pay and where they're prepared to invest their time. It is crazy a little bit, though. We do have some people who play both the Steam version for sort of the more play at your own pace, relaxing, slightly stronger customization options. But we have a lot of people who play will also play the mobile version for the community, for the alliance-based play, for the leaderboard competition, that sort of stuff. So super interesting to see people, not only opting for one or the other, but actually playing both.
I find that very interesting, actually, because, and I think the way that you guys kind of approached it, I feel is the better way, because I personally, I find the problem for mobile games personally, and I find it sad that so many horse games end up on mobile, because the consistent kind of thing of, oh, you need to pay, you need to pay, you need to wait, that kind of grinds at you after a while. So it's nice, it's actually a very nice thing that you guys did, that you pushed it over to PC and gave the people the option to say, hey, look, I really don't like the model of the mobile, but I want to kind of play this game, and they have the option to do that, which is not a lot of games do that. So sorry, it's just something that I kind of always found very nice, at least. But I do actually have another question about the PC. This is something I'm quite curious about. So we can, I think, agree that mobile is pretty limited in comparison to what a PC's machine can do. You know, I'm not going to be able to play Elden Ring on my phone. Let's put it like that. But so I'm quite curious to see. So you have it on PC, you have it on mobile. Doesn't the mobile, because the way I understand it, you update the mobile and then you update the PC. So doesn't the mobile kind of limit the PC in a lot of ways? Because it's very, you know, like I said, you know, mobile isn't very powerful in that regard. So does the mobile restrictions kind of restrict the PC game? And yeah, you know, that kind of interests me that you made the PC, but it can't be very, you know, it can't grow beyond what it is essentially thanks to the mobile. Or how do you feel about that? Or I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, no, I get what I get what you're saying there, and to some extent, there are limitations of technology that might hold things back. You know, we are a Unity-based developer. That means we use the Unity engine technology, and we're using a particular flavor of the Unity engine that makes it easy for us to port backwards and forwards between mobile and PC. But there are limitations there, especially around graphics, in terms of how far then we can push the PC version. So there are some technical choices that we've made that you might say limit the PC version. I think though that to some extent the reason why stuff mostly starts on mobile and then comes across to the Steam version, just to point blank, is because the mobile version makes exponentially more money than the Steam version. So when it comes to creating a you know, sustainable and profitable game that we continue to invest in, it makes more sense in terms of structuring the development to focus development on mobile, and then have those kind of battle-tested features and content then move across to the PC version. It is the case, though, that we are also developing content that only exists on the PC version, and you know, new content and features does come in that way. But you know, 2/3 at least or more of the features and content that come to PC are typically being started on the mobile version. And just to throw some behind the scenes numbers out there, in terms of the number of people working in development across the Rival Stars game, we have about 36 people. That's not including sort of people who will work in customer support or community or our publishing team. But that split is really about 30 people working on the mobile version, and then about 5 or 6 people working on the PC version. Wow. So you can see there that maybe starts explaining things a little bit more. You know, that doesn't mean that we don't value our PC players, our Steam players. You know, we're continuing to make that investment. You know, a big part of our more recent update, which will be coming out in the future as we record this, but in the past, I think by the time this is published, you know, there's some under the hood type stuff we're doing with the networking, which will set us up to be able to do some more interesting things with real-time multiplayer in the future. Oh. So we are making the investment there over time, but you know, really it is a commercial decision that you know, mobile is the priority, and you know, that's, you know, I guess just good business, really.
Yeah, that's fair. It's not something a lot of people always want to talk about, but it does come down to, to money, unfortunately. That sounds unfortunately, but that is unfortunately the reality of games. It's like, it's still a business, it's still a product, it still needs to produce money. It's the only time when I kind of get, weird is when it feels so deliberate. But I've always felt that Rival Stars doesn't, it's not as bad as some games. You get really bad ones. They just make me spit snakes sometimes.
Well, I'm glad we could be the lesser of 10 evils then.
Good grief. Sounds worse than I meant. But I wanted to... okay, actually, we're talking about updates, which is actually something I wanted to ask you about. I feel like it's really interesting. Like, if I went back actually yesterday and I went through all the desktop updates and stuff, and I noticed that it feels like you guys really do listen to players. You added the free roam, which people were very happy about. Like, a lot of people asked for that. You added the genetics, which I know was something a lot of people were asking for. You were also added the cross-country, which is also something a lot of people were asking. I think it was around that time you also started to move a lot of the updates over to the desktop edition as well, if I do remember. I could be wrong on that. But so it feels like, people were screaming, hey, add more to the desktop. And you did do that. I feel like you guys really do listen to the players. So I'm quite curious, how does that kind of, like, when do you decide to add stuff? How does the process kind of go behind the scenes when you decide these types of things and like that?
We get a lot of feedback, and it can be quite hard to stay on top of it all when you kind of add it all together, because we have, of course, the reviews that we will get on Steam or the App Store. We have people in the community that will be making posts or comments on posts. We have people making YouTube videos, such as yourself. We have our analytics, which is getting kind of a more data-based view on things. We have our surveys that we run, every quarter or so. So there is a lot of feedback that comes in, and it's quite a task to kind of collate that and work out where the real strong sentiment is, what people are looking for, what people aren't looking for. So we have some great people on the team whose job it is solely to kind of collate and find the insights and that sort of data. What at least makes the job for those people a lot better than for some of our other games is the horse community, I will say, is just great, because part of that is because I think there is a high percentage of women playing, and I think you certainly notice the difference between our male-dominated player bases and one where women at least make up 50% or more. So it really is pleasant to be opening up the Rival Stars Facebook page every day and finding constructive criticism and positive comments, and a community that engages in a way that makes us want to please them. So I will put that out there for that the community and the feedback that yourselves and others, the constructive way that you put your feedback out there is super helpful for us actually understanding what we should be doing and when and how. Now, that being said, what's interesting about some of this is that things take a long time to develop. So a lot of the time, feedback actually and suggestions actually is kind of a reinforcement to plans or development that we may actually already have in progress. So things like adding cross-country to an extent was something that we had considered from the outset as a potential way to expand the game. that as we get that feedback and people keep asking and asking and asking, you know, that's the sort of thing that reinforces, yes, we're on the right direction. So, you know, the decision to add things like Steeplechase into the mobile version, and one might expect that is coming to the PC version. In fact, I think I can say it will come to the PC version before the end of the year. You know, that is something that was really only a commitment that we made at this time-ish last year, well, maybe more October, November last year. So, so it takes a long time to build some of these features because there's a lot of prototyping and design and technical stuff, and it all has to work within the context of what you already have out there. So it's really important for us to be seeing that feedback, to be reinforcing our plans, and to be making sure that we're heading in the right direction. In some cases, and this is a little insider secret for people who are paying attention to our surveys, and hopefully I don't create problems for our games user research team, but when we put out some surveys and we say, hey, here's some stuff that, you know, tell us out of this list of stuff what you might be interested in us adding to the game or changing about the game. And some of that stuff might be stuff that we're actually already doing, and some of it is stuff that we know we are not doing. But it's important for us to get that feedback, even if we've already made that early commitment to do something, to again make sure we're on the right track and to make sure that we're meeting the needs and desires of the audience. So engaging, you know, with the community, putting your ideas out there, giving us your feedback, completing those surveys. Everything is super helpful. There are, of course, a lot of things we've done which have been off the back of player feedback. Certainly, you know, a lot of usability fixes and changes, quality of life type stuff. You know, if people are annoyed about something, and there's enough people annoyed about something, you know, it reaches a certain temperature that, you know, we have to move on that and resolve those issues. So yeah, feedback is super important, and I will say again, you know, the constructive way that the Horse community engages with developers, I think, is very helpful to us. You know, planning out our roadmap, planning out what stuff to prioritize, planning out what we want to do, and again, you know, things like cross country, the Sol Francais breed, Steeplechase, the foal, introduction of foals, you know, a whole lot of the quality of life improvements that we've made. That's not to say that those things wouldn't have come at some point, but certainly, you know, the feedback has helped us prioritize certain things and helped us shape how we would deliver those to the market.
The way that I'm kind of seeing it, and this is, I don't know if I'm going to put this in the interview, but something that I've noticed with a lot of, like this part I'm saying, but something I've noticed with a lot of horse games is they okay, you said earlier, and I do actually have an expanding question on that, but you said earlier that you have a lot of women in your audience, and it's for some reason a lot of horse game developers seem to think that because they're making a horse game, they're making it oftentimes for kids, and so because of that, they kind of patronize a lot of the time the audience that they have. I think a reason why a lot of people are such big fans of Rival Stars is because you guys don't patronize. You listen and you take the feedback and you give it back to them, and that's you're not in all of the horse gaming communities, but that is something I think a lot of the horse gaming players really do appreciate, is the fact that we're not being patronized, we're being listened to, and they understand that it's an audience that wants a good game, essentially. So yeah, sorry, it's just something that I've always kind of appreciated. You know, there are some issues I have with the game, but it's for that reason I've always kind of appreciated Rival Stars in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think you know, it's one of those things where, you know, we've had a long history of developing sports games, and we understand how passionate fans will be about authenticity, about realism, and, you know, making sure that that we're doing everything we can, I guess, to bring a level of realism to the table. Of course, you know, you don't want everything to be super realistic, because you know, life can be a grind sometimes. So video games sometimes are, you know, a snapshot or a slice of the best parts of the sport. So I think there's certainly that that we bring to the table. Again, though, I mean, part of it is a commercial driver as well. I mean, kids don't have jobs, and that means they don't have disposable income. So, you know, when we're trying to position our games, typically we're developing for an adult audience, and that means, you know, we are delivering games that are a bit more sophisticated or realistic or complex. You know, that's not to say that that there may not be games which we might build for a younger audience on the horizon, but it was certainly very deliberate for us to create Rival Stars to be realistic, to be visually, you know, the best game out there, certainly on mobile. And you know, I think we delivered on that. And again, you know, that was some of the very early feedback that we saw was, it's great there's a horse game out there that isn't patronizing. I guess one anecdote to throw out there, though, is we thought we were making a game for the horse racing enthusiast, and very quickly, and I would say within the first 24 hours of soft launching Rival Stars on mobile, we realized that the horse lifestyle, horse enthusiast market was a lot bigger and a lot more willing to play a horse racing game than we gave it credit for. So, so that horse enthusiast, horse lifestyle fan, that was a bit of a surprise for us, and that meant that early on in the final development before the global launch of the game, and really for the first couple of years of development, to some extent we've been playing catch up in terms of trying to service that side of our audience. So so yeah, that might help give some perspective over where the game started and how we've made some choices about what to build up over the first few years as well.
You kind of jumped ahead of me. That was actually my next question, because I found it so... Myself and Abigail Pinehaven, we were discussing this, and this was actually one of the questions she also wanted to ask. When she heard I was chatting with you, she was like, oh yeah, I just want to ask you a question too. But we were just chatting about this, and I actually did, you know, when I watched that one ad, I don't know if you saw that video with myself and Abigail, but we watched one of your ads, and I was like, I'm wondering if this game was initially meant for men, or it was aimed at a very specific type of audience, and the girls just swarmed it because pretty ponies. And you said that that was a bit of a surprise for you guys. You didn't expect all these women to charge into your game.
Yeah, I mean, I did watch that particular video that you had, and you know, of course, was delighted when you were both talking about Rival Stars. I think, you know, that particular ad, when it comes to advertising and the mobile advertising that we do, we actually have like a whole team that that works on that stuff, and typically what we're actually doing is putting out a number of different types of ads, some of which are, you know, targeted at that kind of, you know, horse racing punter guy who's into the competitiveness of the horse side. But you'll also see ads that we have out there which are more leaning into the breeding side, the customization, the different coats, the different colors. And so it's kind of a matter of trying all these things and then finding the different games and the different channels where one ad will work particularly well, and then a different ad taking a different tack will work in a different way. So yeah, to some extent, it's, you know, you're not supposed to see an ad that's not targeted at you, but you know, targeting is not as strong as what it could be with respect to privacy laws and things these days. It's actually, I don't think some consumers know this, but on the App Store at least, depending on what type of ad you've clicked on or what the creative in the ad is, when you arrive at the App Store, the images and the screenshots that you see when it's showing you on the App Store what the game is about, that can actually change depending on which ad you clicked on.
What?
So if you clicked on an ad that was about, you know, being competitive in horse racing, you know, you might see the version of the Rival Stars Horse Racing App Store page which leans into the racing side, whereas if you clicked on one of the breeding ads, then you might see something that's a little bit more about the ranch and the free riding and cross country. So there you go.
Oh my gosh, they're like manipulating us on all fronts here. It's awful. I don't like advertising anymore. Good grief. But okay. So the other thing that I kind of want to discuss is so I'm a huge horse racing fan. I play a lot of horse racing and games like G1 Jockey, starters orders, and stuff like that. I do have a question. I feel like this is just for interest. Like I said, I'm a big fan of horse racing. So I played Rival Stars, and it feels very very smoothed down. You know, it's so one thing, for example, is I'm just going to give an example, and then I'll ask the question that I want to ask. So one thing is you don't have years, so that means you can't have triple crowns, you can't have like big races that everyone kind of collects to, you can't have sprints, you can't have these specific things because the races keep switching out. And as a result, I find myself often, you know, doing a clicky. So I just kind of click, 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 click. So that's kind of my feedback for the game. It can become a bit of a cookie clicker if you don't want to do the racing, essentially. So my question to you is essentially this. You guys made deliberate decisions to make the game specifically like this. So why did you decide to leave out certain aspects of horse racing? For example, the years that kind of create the stories. That's what I'm looking for. I can't tell a story. I can't have like a nag that becomes like a full-blown, you know, amazing horse that you know, it's that element of horse racing that's kind of missing. So I kind of want to ask, you know, you kind of deliberately decided to make it in this specific way. I'm quite curious, why did you decide to not do seasons and longer, you know, if you understand what I'm saying, these specific elements of horse racing that's kind of missing. So what made you decide to make it in that direction specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair question and observation, especially for a game which kind of opens up with the challenge to the player of create your legacy, you know, yes, regain your family fortune. I think I don't know how deliberate it has been for us to not do that and create kind of this more progressive leaderboard, progressive event system. Part of it has been you know, when I say we've been playing catch up with the horse lifestyle side, that's meant that we've had to make choices in terms of what we've been slower to build on or slower to expand, and to some extent, you know, that has meant that we've almost neglected the horse racing fans to a degree, at least, you know, when it comes to if you lay out all of the updates, all of the improvements we've made, you know, I think the horse lifestyle side has certainly won out in a head-to-head comparison. But you know, things like steeplechase and you know, bringing in the new breed, you know, those are things which are either tilted more towards the horse racing fan, or are a new feature or new content that I think both subgroups can kind of appreciate.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get in trouble with the development team, but I will say we are conscious that there is an appetite and there is a design feature opportunity for something more progressive. I will say that we don't have anything specific in the works, but it is a known opportunity that is on the list. Okay. So you know, now there are a lot of things on the list you can imagine. And, you know, this is one of the challenges with video games, is that there are an infinite number of things you could do, and you have to choose a small number, kind of month to month, year to year. So, but it is on the list. It is an ongoing conversation, and you know, this game is going to be continued to be developed in and invested in for years to come, and who knows where things may go. That's probably about as much as I can say about that.
No, that's awesome. Sorry, let me just check if I have the Sal Francés is a horse that you guys decided to add. I'm quite curious. It was only a limited edition on mobile. Is it going to be coming over to PC, or are there any more plans with that horse specifically? What's the, if I can, and also, are you going to be adding any other breeds, just for interest's sake?
There's a few questions there. Again, no, that's all good. These are all very, very good questions. Again, I think, like Steeplechase, the Sal Francés breed will be coming across to PC. Funnily enough, while Sal Francés came first on mobile and Steeplechase came second, we're doing that the other way around for a couple of different reasons. Which maybe will become more apparent over time. But so we'll deliver Steeplechase on PC before the end of the year, and then Sal Francés will come in Q1 next year. So probably, you know, late March-ish, somewhere around there, maybe April. So yeah, that's and then, you know, we'll actually have by the time this interview comes out, I think we will have just released a new update that will have released some of the changes and improvements to the stat system on PC. So kind of taking across a lot of those quality of life things we did on mobile, and there'll be some of that underlying multiplayer networking stuff that you know, should not be visible to players, but you know, sets us up for some things in the future. Okay. Sorry, somewhere in there I lost the other questions. Oh, you wanted to ask, does the Sal Francés imply that other things may happen with new breeds in the game? Let me draw this out by sipping my my beverage.
You're awful. You're awful.
I'm not sure. I'm looking over here at my other screen at the list of things I'm authorized to talk about. But then I'm the CEO, so yeah, I guess I can make my own list. I mean, I think it's one of those things where, you know, with almost everything we've done when it comes to the free ride and cross country, the way we built that out, you know, that laid the foundation then for Steeplechase, because that, you know, we were able to leverage the the horse jumping motion capture that we did. I think it's fair to say that you could make some guesses about what the introduction of the Sail Francais might mean for content in the future. So I would expect more along those lines, and yeah, that's all I'm going to say on that one.
Okay. Oh, that is really exciting. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so the final question I think that we can kind of go into is just the update that's been kind of teased throughout this entire interview. We're quite curious to hear what that's going to be about, please.
I guess I'm not quite sure what update we're talking about. So we have multiple updates. So I think we're going to have 2 updates before the end of the year on mobile. I think there's going to be an interim one coming soon. Probably, let me see. I have here again on my other screen a spreadsheet. And let's see. I would say probably around the end of October or early November, you'll probably see something for mobile. I don't know that there'll be a lot of changes there that are sort of visible to the player. There'll be a few quality of life improvements. We've got some stability things that we're wanting to take care of. We do have a bigger update, which is introducing some interesting new content before the end of the year. So that should come in very late November or early December. And then we have, all throughout December, we have just a number of events and giveaways and a whole bunch of stuff that we're kind of running back to back over that holiday period, where we'll roll out this new functionality, this new content, and we hope that people will be very happy with what we deliver there, which I'm sure some people will find exciting and some people won't, which is always the way with whatever we choose. You can't make everybody happy,
No,
I'm going to say.
No, you can't. Oh, no. Okay, cool. Yeah.
And then I'll say on the PC side, so we will have just released an update for the stats and improvements and some of the some fixes. I think we've got some new colors and coats in the PC version that have just come out. And then before the end of the year, we'll have, I think, does it maybe look like 2 updates? Maybe they'll probably be rolled into one update. So we'll have Steeplechase, and then there's some of the early experience in the game will be streamlined and improved as well. I think, we've added so many features and modes and new content and changes that we're taking the opportunities to sort of go through the early experience in the game and just create a little bit more consistency there. So that'll be especially useful for new players or players who are looking to start again and sort of play through the game. But so both PC and mobile will be getting big updates before the end of the year.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. I do have 2 questions Abigail asked me to ask, so I will not drop her in this. I asked her actually a lot of questions, but then she said she only has 2 questions. Will you hire her for an ad? And when will you hire her for an ad?
I saw her dropping the I saw her dropping the very strong hints when you were discussing the blokey bloke ad. I love Abigail. The team loves Abigail's content. We're again very appreciative of yourself and other influencers who cover our game, you know, whether it's good or bad, and you're keeping us honest. So, you know, very appreciative of what you do. Abigail is, let me just say, Abigail is on the marketing team's radar. So yeah, we are interested in opportunities where not only can we learn from your expertise and your audience's hopes and dreams for our games, but you know, I think there are opportunities for us to work with yourselves to give you the inside scoop, to clarify things where we feel there's an opportunity to clarify, to kind of show behind the curtain what's going on. I had posed an idea with respect to how we might engage with Abigail to the marketing team, but you know, we'll see. That sounds very ominous all of a sudden.
A little bit, but I'll carry over the message. I think she'll be very giddy. Thank you very much. Yeah, I found this interview very interesting because it was really fun to kind of hear. It's gonna sound odd, but an honest, like, open discussion about, you know, yes, it is for monetary, but the reason why we do it is this. And I found it, like, fascinating, the fact that you said that only about, I think, 5% of people actually purchase on mobile, which is, like, I did not expect that number to be that low. But it kind of makes a lot of sense for me now why mobile is so aggressive. It's kind of, you know, you know, people can say what they want, but it is an extremely aggressive platform. You know, they put in the timers to kind of make you. It preys on impatience. You know, I've said this before, and it's interesting to kind of hear that only about 5% people pay, and now I'm like, oh, this is why it is so aggressive, because so few people actually pay. So it's. Yeah, it was really interesting to kind of hear these types of perspectives, because, you know, a lot of what I do my research, I try my best, but so much of it is kind of guesswork, because you can't go into the background of a company and kind of go, okay, what exactly are you guys doing there, you know? Because no one ever wants to answer. But I'm going to take these.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, go.
I think, you know, that what's interesting about it is it's a fine line, right? Because this is a business after all, and the game wouldn't exist and wouldn't keep being developed and improved if it wasn't sustainable for us. You know, we'd have to move on to other things, but it is a fine line between balancing that sustainability and profitability against you know, the pressure, you know, for want of a better word, that you want to apply to players to compel them to make a purchase. So I you know, when we're approaching monetization in a free-to-play context, I guess we're trying to do things, I guess, in a way which feels non-exploitative. And to that extent, generally that means that almost everything in our games you can experience and collect or gain for free. You know, there may be quite a lot of grind that you have to put in to achieve that, but we at least have that pathway there. And I think you know, we try to be responsible when it comes to how we price things and where we put those purchase opportunities and where we apply that pressure. So, you know, sometimes you turn that dial too far and you need to turn it back. Sometimes it's not turned far enough. It is a challenge, but I think, you know, we consider ourselves an ethical company. We like to be as transparent as possible, which is, you know, why I'm sitting here talking to you now.
Yes.
And again, you know, we're happy to hear feedback on where people feel we're at with respect to value for money, whether it be for the PC version, which let's face it, it is a relatively high-priced game in the PC space, compared to AAA content. But we feel that that's about the right price point for that particular game in that particular market with that particular theme. So yeah, always happy to hear feedback, but it is a challenge operating in the free-to-play space and finding the right balance. Sometimes we get it wrong, but we hope that we're in a place where we can correct and recalibrate to a place where we and gamers can feel it's fair.
Yeah, it's I can believe that's a difficult thing to balance. I was pretty shocked by the price for it. After I bought the game and I played it, I'm like, really? But the fact that you are adding more content and stuff, I think eventually the game will balance out to its price tag, but I think the main issue for me personally at this point with Rival Stars, it doesn't have a lot of depth, and I think if I'm talking about from my race head perspective here, I think that's something that a lot of horse race enthusiasts enjoy. They like the depth, and I think that's maybe something we spoke about it earlier, but that's maybe something that that kind of maybe if that is added, I think that will bring great value to the game for me personally. In any case, but one thing that I find interesting about your game, and this is going to sound odd, there isn't a lot of... Okay, this sounds odd. In a racing game, there isn't a lot of gambling. Okay, I'm going to explain what I mean. I think you might know what I mean by that. So I did a Wild Shade review where I spoke about, you put two horses together, you click this thing, and you get this sparkly thing, and then you get your horse. It's an instant thing. You can, do this, a bunch of times after one another. Now, when I look at Rival Stars, you have to take two horses, put them together, it's going to make a foal, then you have to feed the foal. So it's not that instant dopamine hit that you're going to get like you get with Wild Shade, and that's another thing that I kind of like about Rival Stars. It's I actually almost used Rival Stars as an example in Wild Shade, but I thought about it and I'm like, no, it's not as bad actually, because you don't add those addicting qualities as heavily as some other mobile games do as well, which is interesting. I found that quite interesting actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that though. There is a certain type of YouTube video that's created though, that I'm sure you're familiar with around Rival Stars, where and Abigail has kind of done these as well, where you breed some horses, you breed the foal. Oh, there's the foal. No, sell it on to the next one. So you can approach it in that more Kinder Surprise kind of way,
yeah, you do.
If you really want to. But I think, yeah, for what we're trying to do, and I know that some players feel that the breeding is random, but it's I think less random than people expect, kind of under the hood. We want an element of randomness there, but there's also a strategy to breeding, and for those players that are investing the time and breeding the right horses together, you can breed a champion that way, in the same way that we want people to be able to breed that stable of champions over time. So yeah, there is an element of luck to it, but you can be strategic about your breeding too. I mean, it's funny when you mention a lack of gambling though. Certainly because horse racing inherently has gambling in it. The PC, of course, has things like the betting mode, which doesn't feature in the mobile version. We've actually stayed very away from gambling and anything kind of gambling themed in the mobile version, because if we were to do that, then it would be very hard for us to get featuring on the mobile platform. So there are sort of spoken rules and unspoken rules. You need to be careful about any content that's particularly mature when it comes to gambling or substance abuse or violence or guns or things like that. You need to walk a very careful line. So it's actually a very deliberate choice for us to say, hey, we're not going to have any kind of simulated gambling in the mobile version.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've heard of these kind of limitations within them, but then like I've realized how sneaky these mobile games have become. They kind of sneak in that addiction, but in their, like I said, Wild Shed, it was like, yeesh, this is so on the nose, it's not even funny anymore. But I actually have an interesting question. Sorry, the questions are coming as I'm sitting. But just one more. Just for interest sake, the Cell Francais was I think that's how you pronounce it. Good grief. Was a limited edition on the mobile, and it's only coming later to PC. Okay, so I know that you have 35 people working on the mobile. The mobile is a lot more popular because it did it for you guys because it brings in a lot more revenue, which is absolutely fair. But if you look at the PC, I don't know if this question is going to be okay. But do you use the mobile? You update the mobile first to kind of entice people to maybe come play the mobile to ensure that they, it's kind of like an advertising strategy. So you put the Cell Francais on first. It's a seasonal thing that kind of maybe pulls people towards the mobile. Is that a strategy that you guys, you don't have, it's just interesting for me if that is something that you can maybe implement.
I have seen that theory out there a bit, and there's I guess it seems like a reasonable hypothesis, but it's not actually true. So it really comes down to, again, just where and when we're building stuff out and how quickly we can get that across to the PC version. I guess the reason why, and again, one of the things I pointed out, perhaps very deliberately, was that the Cell Francais came first on mobile before Steeplechase came to mobile. And then, but Steeplechase is coming first to, in terms of order, out of those two features, is coming first before Cell Francais to the PC version. This sometimes, we hold off bringing something to PC until there is, the feature or the content is built out, kind of to the level that we expect, or that we wanted to do. So Steeplechase is somewhat complete as a feature in terms of being able to bring that across to the PC version. When it comes to the Cell Francais, there is more stuff being built around that that we want to kind of finish and have built out before we then bring that across wholesale to the PC version. So it's not that we're holding it back deliberately. It's just that we want to be able to complete everything that we're doing to be able to then pick up the full thing and then bring that over in one go, rather than bringing it across the version that it is now and then updating it and updating it and updating it. So it's kind of an efficiency thing, more so than it is about making people play on mobile and PC at the same time. So, but it like I say, I would, if I was looking at it from the outside, I'd be suspicious too.
Yeah, but this is why it's nice to have these conversations, because if silence kind of breeds contempt. If people don't communicate, then they have the space to kind of develop these types of ideas. And I think that's something that I think a lot of game developers start to need to realize, that if they keep kind of all their cards to their chest and they don't talk to their audience, it's just going to breed that anger, and they're going to be like, well, why are you guys angry? Well, you don't tell us anything, so now we're just going to be angry at you. And then they get so angry at us. But yeah, I think I've asked everything I wanted to ask. thank you so very very much for having this interview with me. It was really insightful, and I'm very excited to put it together. But very 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 sincerely, thank you, Mario. I do very much appreciate you having this interview with me. I had a lot of fun with it, and like I said, it was really insightful. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for covering the game. You know, I hope you'll continue to talk about the game. I think, you know, great to have the opportunity to address some of the burning questions that yourself and the audience has had. You know, would be more than happy to speak again at some point, because you know, I think it's important for us, as you say, to keep engaging with the community, to keep engaging with leaders in the community such as yourself, and you know, whether the questions are softball or hardball, you know, I'm happy to have a discussion and address the stuff that people want to know about our games, or even the industry and you know, game development or game publishing in general. So glad to have the opportunity, and thank you very much for covering our game.
Mario, I do have to unfortunately head off now, but I do sincerely appreciate this, and I hope you have an absolutely amazing day.
You too. Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.